This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're going to look at the Moto E. What's interesting about this? Not that it's a real high-end flagship phone, but it's $129, no contract, outright, no commitment. We're going to look at it now. So here it is, the Moto E. Motorola, whenever they come out with a phone, much talked about, and they're doing interesting things. First, a little background. Yes, Motorola is, the part that makes the phones, that is owned by Google. They bought them a while ago, but now Google is selling them to Lenovo. At this point, Google still owns them. Both a reputable company, so I don't think you have to worry about warranty service or anything like that. Now that we've discussed that, Motorola phones have become synonymous with affordable when it comes to their GSM phones. Not the Droid line on Verizon, where they still do some higher end, mid to high end stuff, but the GSM phones, especially the unlocked ones, have been really pretty nice phones to the price. It's interesting because at first Google used their manufacturers, their partners for Nexuses, to make flagship devices because there weren't enough high-end phones around, and now they've been using them to make pretty well lower and mid-range phones that are very nice, very decent, and from a company that you respect like Motorola and can trust, so they can really, well, take over more of the market, the affordable market, and that's not a bad idea. So take a look at the phone. Well, it's nothing exceptional to look at, but it's not bad either. It has a soft touch back. It looks a whole lot like the Moto G. Funny that. The Moto G is 4.5 inches. This is 4.3 inches. So those of you who like smaller phones will rejoice. Fits very easily in the hand and the pocket relative to today's giant phones. And here is the Moto G, just to compare it. Optional nifty blue-green shell on the back of our Moto G. So just a little bit smaller. Same design language, real obvious relationship between the two. And speaking of shells, you can get different colored shells for this. There's spearmint, there's royal navy blue kind of thing, there's raspberry. They're very pretty colors Motorola does. And the backs on these are not expensive. $15 if you want to get a different color back. The only kind of annoying thing about this is it's not the easiest back to get off. You can take the back off, and I'll show you now. Grab it by the micro USB port on the bottom and just start working your way around the edges to get it off. Alright, so we've removed the, well, kind of pain in the neck back. It really is on there pretty well. You gotta work your fingernail around the edges. And you can see right here, this is where the battery is, but the battery is not removable. Interesting that. So there's this plastic plate over it. So you cannot actually remove the battery that's underneath the back here. This is our micro SIM card slot right over here. And below there's the micro SD card slot there. So if you do have to take the battery off, the cover off rather, it can be a little bit annoying to get to that card slot, but otherwise, not so much. This is our soft touch back. And getting it on is much quicker and easier. It just snaps right back on. While we're looking at the phone, here's our micro USB port here. This does not support USB host. It's just regular micro USB for charging. Charger and cable are in the box. Yay, for $129. You must worry, it might not be. And also you can do data transfer from your computer. This side here, we have our volume control and our power button. Up top, we have the headphone jack, and there's a little microphone hole right there. 5-megapixel camera on the back. We'll talk about that more later. It won't be the highlight of the review. And on the front, there is no front-facing camera. For $129, you don't get that. Wow. And little chrome thing right here is just for looks. This uses on-screen control, as you can see here. That's what Google likes on Android. This is a 4.3-inch display, like I said, and it's a nice, colorful display. We're at maximum brightness right now, and it's adequate. It's not super-duper great. If you use it outdoors a lot, you might find that it's a little bit lacking in that department. Also, viewing angles. It looks lovely straight on, and it looks IPS-like in terms of its sharpness, its contrast, the colors, all that sort of thing. But the viewing angles, you can see, wow, it just kind of disappears quite quickly. So for your $129, you're not going to get all, well, wonderful stuff, are you? This is a QHD resolution display, and yes, no, it's not full HD, but remember the price once again. So that is 960 by 540 pixels, but given the fact this is only 4.3 inches, that's 256 ppi, so that's pretty good pixel density. Everything looks nice and sharp. Runs Android KitKat 4.4, latest greatest OS right here. And it is very responsive, despite the fact that it has just a dual-core Snapdragon 200 CPU. That's the 1.2 gigahertz. Again, this is meant to be a budget phone, so you're not going to buy this to play Real Racing 3 and never drop a frame or something like that. But honestly, because the OS is so clean and so light on this, using it, launching applications, even browsing the web, really haven't had any problems with the speed on it. Has a gig of RAM inside, only 4 gigs of storage. And of course, you're going to have even less available because the OS and pre-installed programs take up some space on this. Again, not for you gamers, because games tend to be absolutely, well, huge these days, the real cutting-edge 3D games. Now, in terms of synthetic benchmarks, well, first you can see our SunSpider JavaScript test results right here, where lower numbers are better. This is the number we care about right up top, and you can see pinch zooming is just fine on this. 1616, not particularly faster. We've seen worse, we've seen better. Flagship phones generally score under 1,000. For a quadrant, it scored 5,252, about 1/4 of the flagships there. Antutu, 12,704. 3D Mark Ice Storm, the unlimited test, 3,747. So you get the idea. On synthetic benchmarks, not a wizard. On day-to-day use, it's absolutely just fine. Keyboard here is your basic Android keyboard, and we'll load our website to see how that performs. Something a little more graphically intensive, and that's pretty darn good. Right now, we do have Wi-Fi turned on. By the way, this has 3G HSPA, that's the 21 megabit per second, not the 42 megabit per second flavor. So it's adequate as download speeds on AT&T's network. This is the global version, so that one's compatible with AT&T on 3G and 2G. About 6 to 7 megabits per second down and 1 megabit per second up. Of course, AT&T caps upload speeds on the HSPA 3G network. That phone, the global phone, is also compatible around the world, and if you get the US model, again, that adds support for T-Mobile's AWS bands, and you'll lose the 2100 megahertz for overseas 3G. So here we have our website loaded. Pinch zooming is just fine. It loaded quite quickly. Now, that speaks of the rendering capabilities of the phone. It's not just about the Wi-Fi, but there's ads loading, lots of graphics, all that sort of thing, and no problem whatsoever. So let's play a video on it and see. This has incredibly loud speakers for a little phone, by the way. And you can see where the HTML5 video playback is a little bit less responsive than usual in terms of control. This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're going to look at an exciting new phone. This is the HTC One M8, the new HTC One, whatever you want to call it. This is the second generation of the flagship One series phone. Still has a beautiful LCD display. A lip sync issue here. Boom sound speakers, but the back gets a little treatment here with we still got lip sync issues. Kind of look. It's brushed aluminum. We're going to look at it now. So here it is, finally, HTC's new flagship. So you get the idea. Yes, it is a $129 phone with a Snapdragon 200 dual-core CPU, so you're not going to get all the best speed here in terms of video playback performance either. Even something like HTML5 video from YouTube, typically on mobile networks, they're streaming at around 720p quality. Back to the good stuff. This is Gorilla Glass 3 here, pretty durable. This kind of rubber shell, also generally speaking, very durable, so I wouldn't worry about this phone. I don't think you have to be very careful with it in the least bit, obviously. It has a GPS with GLONASS. It has Wi-Fi 802.11 and single band 2.4 gigahertz only. Usually with smartphones these days, we see dual band. That's a pretty ample battery for a phone with a small display that's not particularly high resolution, just a dual-core CPU. And in fact, given the fact there's no LTE to really drag down performance on this, battery performance that is, it's real easy to get through a day even with moderate to heavy use on this. Obviously, giving the video streaming performance, I wouldn't use this all day for streaming video, but if you did, then you would obviously get shorter battery life too. So how about the camera? This can shoot 480p video, but not 1080p video. You see it gives you little hints here. Swipe in from this side to get to the gallery. Swipe here to get settings. This is not my favorite camera UI. The wheel control UI, that's the basic Google UI. Not my favorite way of doing things. I don't find it the easiest to control, but it's there. You can control your aspect ratio. You can turn on panorama mode, control over location. HDR. HDR really helps with this. I suggest having it on auto or perhaps even on all the time. Motorola does not have a reputation for making the best cameras in phones, and this is no exception right here. This 5 megapixel shooter is thoroughly average. If you turn on HDR, even in situations where you might not think you need it, though, you'll get much better pictures. You'll get much better dynamic range, even better colors, but really it's It's just at best okay in terms of the image quality right there. And if we swipe into our gallery, and we'll keep using gallery, there's the picture we shot, and compare it to the color of the actual thing. It's not nearly as vibrant as the actual thing, which is our Moto G here. By the way, for those of you who are trying to decide between the various Motos, the Moto G, the existing one that we all know and love, was $179. There's going to be an LTE one, very enticing, for $219. So you get the idea, you get a bigger display on here, you get the option of LTE, front-facing cameras, some more creature comforts that you'll have on the Moto G. Of course, there's also the Moto X, which is $350 and has more sophisticated software, a more sophisticated processing system, and is also available through carriers as well if you don't want to get the unlocked one. Speaking of unlocked, this is a GSM-only phone, so you can get the global version, as I said, works just fine on AT&T, and abroad you can get the US one that works on AT&T and T-Mobile. You may not get all the bands you need for traveling abroad. And Motorola says a CDMA version with 3G EVDO Rev A is coming soon. It's not out yet. So this is not for Sprint and Verizon right now, as of this video, published in May 2014. Now, a couple of months from now, it may be available, but just keep that in mind for those of you who are on those networks. So the Moto E is a perfectly competent, and as a basic phone goes, it's not so bad looking. In fact, it's very nice. You can have different colored shells on here. The screen, other than the viewing angles, is not bad to look at all. In terms of colors and sharpness, it's quite good. You get a GPS, you get your Bluetooth, you get your Wi-Fi, you get 3G on here, you get a name that you know and hopefully you can trust. There's Motorola with Google behind it, and soon to be Lenovo. So those are the selling points. If you're really on a budget, you want a decent Android phone that doesn't feel sluggish, which this one doesn't. Nice, clean, light Android build. It has a lot of stuff going for it. Obviously, this is not going to be something that competes with the Galaxy S5, a bigger phone in the 5-inch category with all the features, the best camera you can want, all sorts of stuff like that. Very different prices, very different kinds of phones right here. But for those of you who are on a tight budget, more appealing than a lot of those no-name import phones that we've seen that also are usually 3G, 2G only, and God knows if they break, if that company will be around tomorrow if you can find them again. So in that respect, pretty handy. And also for those of you who already have a main phone, but you just want something that's unlocked for travel, and for whatever reason you can't get your main phone unlocked, it's a tempting choice. So that's the Moto E. It's available now for the global version. If you want the US model, most of you T-Mobile people will want that. You're going to have to wait a couple of weeks more, but honestly, if you're looking for a basic, affordable Android smartphone that covers the bases, it has good speed and pleasing looking display, and is very hand-friendly. It's not too big. $129, this is crazy. Go get it. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to visit our website for the full review, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.